This one video is a lot more special than the last install I did, because this one will be one of the loudest ZL1s that I know of that is actually in the world.
It's just crazy. Now what's over there? Hey, we got the RP 3500.1D by Scar Audio moving. It's taking the whole building. It's crazy, man. Thank you so much. The foundation is coming apart. Oh my goodness. Warning. High voltage, man. This motherfucker moving. I'm protected. You can have it, man.
Alright guys, here it is. The video you've all been waiting for, or the video I know I've been waiting for. The 2018 Camaro ZL1, how to install a stereo system. Like I said before, if you've seen the previous video, the highest speed Camaro video we have right now is the 2016 6th gen, how to install a stereo video. This system will be pushing 3500 watts RMS. For those who don't know what that is, that's continuous power. So I got a pretty huge box. We know the Camaro back seats, the rear seats are absolutely useless, so that's where my box is going to go. People are going to say, well, I'm probably going to receive backlash for it, but like I said before, like I would rather have my trunk, you know, use my trunk and still utilize it to carry things, and I'm not going to use the back seat. I never have passengers, so that's why I actually put the box in the back seat. You'll see how it fits. It's a pretty tight squeeze. The box is actually 18 inches by depth, 32 inches by width, and I believe 14 or 15 inches by height. So it's a pretty decent sized box. It fits in that back seat of the 2018 ZL1, like a snug fit. It has space on the sides. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and actually show you guys how to disassemble. I'm going to be taking mostly all this carpet out. I may leave the left side, but for sure I'm taking the right side off. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this install started. So first thing first, what you want to do, you have 4 plastic nuts. You'll want to screw these off, each one. Take these 4 bad boys off. Preferably, when doing this install, have a bucket or something close by, so whenever you take all this stuff off, you know exactly what you took off, so you know exactly what you need to put back on. I see a lot of times when people do stereo installs, you have to take off a lot of plastic pieces, take off trim, pop out tabs, and they don't put them back in because well, I don't want to say maybe they're just being lazy, or they just don't know or remember they took it out. But so on this plastic piece here, you want to pull it up towards you. So you're going to pull up on it. It has 2 clips here, and they're going to pop out. And you heard those clicks, and this piece comes right out. These are the 2 plastic clips I'm talking about, and those plastic clips actually align with these holes here. So that's how you take that piece off. All right, next thing, what you're going to go ahead and do, we'll go ahead and pull this this like trunk carpet piece, the main piece that actually goes down. You want to pull that out. And you want to sit that to the side. Usually when I do these type of installs, I like to keep everything in the same general area, so I know. Now, to get this side piece of carpet off, it is actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's only 2, and you got one over there. I'm not gonna pull that one off because I might just pull it back, or I could just take it all the way off for you guys. But you have a plastic tab here, little tab you gotta pop out with a trim removal tool, and then you have another one actually right here. So you're gonna pop those 2 out. You know, this here is the, if I can get it off, the access door for the battery, but I need this all apart so I can get my wires hooked up, ground wires, all those connections. So all right, so I got my handy dandy trim removal tool. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna start on one of these. You can use either side, whichever side works best for you. You're just gonna pull it out, kind of towards you. I usually put it right here, get a little pressure on it so it doesn't freaking fly off and I'll lose it. So that's one right there. Like I said, put the stuff in the bucket. And then you got one down here on the bottom side. Like I said, same thing, kind of get underneath it. Sometimes you gotta, it's a little harder, you know, kind of fly back and forth. Pop that one out as well. Usually on these, if they're too damaged, you want to replace them. You don't want to put them back in because it's like a weak point. They'll slide right out. Some people, they just slide them back in. In my instance, I'm not going to be tearing this apart and putting them back together a ton of times. So I'm just going to put the same ones back in, and unless they're just prove to me that they actually need to be replaced, then I'll replace them. But for now, that's not really a big worry. So next, I'm gonna pull this carpet back. Now, like I said before, actually I got one more up there. You got one more up top right there that you want to take off. So there's 3 total. So you're gonna get that underneath there, like I said before. Kind of pull back a little bit, do a little wiggle, a little jiggle. See, that's what I was talking about. Why I usually put my finger on them, because if you don't, they'll fly somewhere and you got to look for them later. In my case, for some reason, it sounded like it went outside the car. Something bounced over here somewhere. I guess now I'll be going to actually buy some more, so I can replace that one. Alright guys, so here's the ground that you need to take off. This is the existing ground for the actual battery, and I'm just going to use that one for the my sky high wiring. Make sure this is right. Alright, so you're going to take the ground off. This is actually a half inch deep well socket, 1/4 inch drive. Not that matters, but that's the size of this nut. So you need to get a half inch ratchet. So in this case now, since I got it broke loose, I got an impact driver. I'm gonna take out the rest of the way, so make it a little quicker. Alright guys, so like I said, there's what you need there. I'm actually just gonna scrape around it just to make sure it's a little bit better of a ground. It's already scraped on the bottom side, but this side has a little bit of paint, so I'm just gonna go ahead and scrape it off anyway. Alright, so here I got my 1.0 ground wire from Sky High Audio. This is true spec 1.0. Not that, you know, when they say it's 1.0 on there, including the insulation, this is actually 100% oxygen-free copper wire by Sky High Audio. So huge shout out to them for the amazing quality of wire and the actual freaking ginormous juice tip lugs on here. That's freaking ridiculous. I need to actually. Sorry, Sky High Audio. I know you came with some heat shrink for the actual, to put around the lug, but I've been a huge fan of Steve Meade. I mean, ever since he had the 418s and the freaking Tahoe, that was one of the first systems. That's actually what kind of got me into car audio stuff and everything like that. When I saw Steve Meade with a freaking 418s pushing crazy freaking numbers when it comes to how much wattage. I think it was either 20,000 or 30,000 watt stereo system setup. But he would always go to always go to audio shows and do like hair tricks and everything like that. And ever since then, I was always amazed by the stuff that he did. So I believe I don't know how old I was. I know I was in 4th grade, 5th grade, maybe 6th grade. But either way, in that range. So that aged me about 12, 13 years old. I'm 23 now, so that shows you. I mean, 10 years of staying committed to the Steve Meade designs. Everything that he does out there. I mean, he's doing stuff a lot crazier now. So I mean, huge shout out to Steve Meade. I said that I reached out to you on Instagram about building me a box. At the time, you told me that you're not actually building boxes for the public. So that was kind of a bummer. I wanted to get a custom box built for the 2018 ZL1, but I just decided if I couldn't get that type of touch on my audio system, I decided to go with some of your products. So for now, I just got the Steve Meade design heat shrink, but he has a lot of other stuff out there that you have to stay tuned for because it's on its way. That's only about these bad boys. They get hot. Like, I'm talking, you melt the skin off hot. We got the Steve Meade design heat shrink right there. Something I always forget, man. You gotta remember this.
Love.
Yeah. So now you want to get your now you want to get your half-inch nut that you took off the original ground. You want to make sure that these wires are actually so this wire here, we're gonna get a little spark action. It's a but you wanna actually have a special notch on there, so you wanna make sure this one's actually lined up. You got this one on the right way. What I do personally, start it a little bit, get it started, and then kind of rotate it where you're gonna the sets of the direction on it, so you know it's gonna come across and go over. So once you get it there, you go ahead and tighten it up on there. My instinct, I got my freaking damn thing stuck on there. That sucks. Okay, so this is hooked up, nice and firm, nice and snug. Alright, so the one thing that anytime you ever hook up a ground on anything, it doesn't matter what it is, you always want to check the continuity. You always want to make sure that you have at least 0.1. I'm freaking sweating, it's hot out here in Oklahoma. 0.1 or 0.2, 0.3, and anything higher than that, you should start make sure you have a better connection. Make sure the paint is actually peeled off, and make sure that everything is hooked up correct. So in my case, as you see, I have an open. Once I have an open, so once I put this to somewhere to ground on this vehicle, I should show continuity. So I'll check it. So you see I have 0.1. I'll take it to the battery. You see there I have about 0.3. Take it somewhere else. You see there I actually have 0.0, which is great. So like I said, you just want to take it to somewhere with no paint on it. Make sure you have a good ground. If it doesn't have any, if it has paint, you're not going to get anything. So always verify that you have a good ground once you hook up a ground. So like I said, I'll take this back to itself. 0.2, I'll take it to the battery, ground, and I have 0.1. So always verify you have continuity, low continuity on the ground. So just in case you hook up all this and you're wondering what's going on, well, you'll then know that freaking dripping, that your ground is hooked up and everything is good on that. So that's the first step here, is making sure you got a good ground, making sure it's nice and tight, not gonna move, making sure your wire will reach where you're in location for it. So I'm gonna leave this all off for now. Alright guys, so as you can see here, I've got a huge, what it looks like, well for now, a huge mess. So what I just did, since my box is so big and where the position of the amplifier that's going to be in my vehicle, I tuned the amp, went ahead and set the amp to the specific, I guess you say the output to the subs, so the specific square root number, because you know if you set the gain, well, we're using a multimeter, you have to use a square root. So in my case, my continuous wattage max power is 2500, but I won't be pushing them fully to 2500 right now since the subs are fairly new. I want to break them in a little bit, so I did the square root of 2000, which is 45. So you need to put your voltmeter on AC current, and you need to hook it up to the positive and the negative lead on the amplifier. Now when you put it to the positive and negative lead on the amplifier, you want to play, range from a 35 hertz soundtrack to a 45 to even to a 50. I did it 35, 40, 45, 50, and just kind of got like an average number from all of those, and then I set the gain accordingly. Now most songs nowadays, most of the bass, some of them for an average maybe about 40 to 50 hertz. So usually like I said, that's why I like to tune my systems, because if you tune it at a lower bass and then you got songs that are hitting at 50 hertz and this low bass is already hitting, well, you know that 50 and 45 hertz is going to freaking essentially just destroy your system. I mean, it's going to push distortion. So that's why I decided to go this route with it and tune it this way. A lot of people nowadays, they use oscilloscopes instead of multimeters. Those are very handy. I don't have one, so I definitely want to get one eventually. And also with this build here, so I actually had to for the Camaro. Now you have the wires actually at the connector. Now before I went ahead and actually, because I want to test everything out to make sure everything worked, before I actually cut into the wires from these two plugs for the rear two, what they call subwoofers on the Camaro 6 Gen, I wanted to actually make sure it worked. So what I did was I got to the positive and the negative as the two rear speakers and connected to my LC2i. Now with LC2i, a lot of people know that you give it some power, you run some wires from your amplifier, the actual ground to the ground, you're actually 12 volt to your 12 volt, and then you actually run your remote out from here to your remote in of your amplifier. Now by doing that, you enable the GTO, the signal sensing turn on, and that's all. Usually on this specific unit, it always comes with, I mean, it always turns it on, so you don't have to worry about trying to figure out what's what to actually get that to work, because it will automatically do it. Once it senses the signal from these speakers back here, it will send the signal to turn on your LC2i, and it will actually turn on your amplifier. So that's a pretty neat thing about that. Once again, like I said, I'll kind of explain again. What you do, you take your ground, you don't have to be long wires, take your ground and jumper it into your ground from your amplifier. And then you take your 12 volt and you jumper it into your 12 volt of your amp. And then you take your remote out from your LC2i and you jumper it into your remote in for your amplifier. Now you know that your remote in, usually on all amps, 99% of amps, is going to tell that amp to turn on. Now some amps actually have a signal sensing input to where it has a positive and negative, negative for the left and the right, and it has a ground, and it actually, you can do it that way. But with the LC2i, is a pretty neat thing about it, with just tuning this sub here, tuning my amplifier and everything, is kind of neat, because it tells me whenever I am at that maximized point where it's no more, where distortion is coming in. So it tells me, just essentially to kind of back it off. So what you do here, I mean, you can, play with everything here for a little bit, make sure, you kind of get everything where you want it. And then once you have it to that maximized level, kind of back it off right off of the maximized. And then kind of the same thing, kind of for the amplifier. You want to tune this before you tune that, because the signal is coming through the LC2i to the amplifier. So you want to get everything set up with your LC2i first, and then you want to come here to your amplifier, start messing with your bass, your subsonic, your bass EQ, your gain, your low pass filter, and your phase. Make sure you have your bass knob hooked up and turned all the way to the max. Make sure that, of course, you need your RCAs hooked up from your LC2i or whatever line output converter you use. So right now, my next process now is actually doing a lot of wire management and actually getting my subs wired up to 1 ohm. I need to wire those up 1 ohm, so I need to wire those up, get the wires coming out the back, mount the amp to the back, and mount the LC2i to the back, and leave all the existing wires here, so I don't have to worry about messing with that. So that's currently where I stand with this. It has been a very tedious process. I mean, especially with something of this power, and I've never did a system that is going to be capable of this. But I guess if you want to put out great content, you gotta take a great sacrifice, and working in this heat. I think when I just opened my Camaro to actually tune it to turn it on, it actually said that it was 101 degrees. So I don't know how legit that is, but it is scorching out here. I'm doing this for you guys. Hope you guys will very much appreciate this video, because it's not something that I would just come out on a daily and say I want to do. Since it was the highest viewed, one of the highest viewed videos, I decided that it was something that I should touch back on, but I should touch back on it and do it even bigger and even better, with a big and better sub setup, an amplifier, and a big and better car. So hope you guys like what's going on so far, and stay tuned for the rest of this install. Here I have my two Scar EVL12 dual 4 ohms. With the amp I'm using, which is the RP 3500.1D power, I am going to wire them up to a 1 ohm final impedance. I've already tuned the amp to give me the specific wattage that I need for the break-in period for these subwoofers, which I'm specifically, personally, I'm going to run 1,000 watts a piece, so 2,000 watts total, which is a you know, a final number of 45, because the square root of 2,000 is 45. So like I explained that earlier in the video how I did that. Now I'm about to wire these subs up to have a final impedance of 1 ohm. So they're two dual 4 ohm voice coils. So I'm gonna first start, you know, I'm gonna put my negative, positive and the positive. So I kind of do it kind of step by step. So my wires are long. I usually have them kind of longer. I usually kind of roll them over or snip them. I mean, they don't have to be this long. So I'll put black negative, and then we got this one here, positive, right? And then so you go around the subwoofer, whichever way you decide. Go around the subwoofer, and you go same thing. You go black is negative, blue is positive. So there you got that. You're gonna do the same exact thing on the opposite subwoofer. Go black, go blue. You're gonna swing it around. Go black and blue, just red. After you do that, you are going to grab your little longer piece of the wire, and you're gonna go, so preferably you'll take that black side back out. You'll have these interconnected, and you stick that back in, and you go to the positive side, do the same thing. You interconnect them and stick that back in. You come over to this side, which I need to drill a hole in my box. I'm just showing you guys, this is just for the informational purpose. You're gonna come and you gotta twist these together. Stick that in there. You're gonna get the blue. You gotta stick that off in there. And then final, you're gonna come to the negative side of one of your subs. And you're gonna put the negative on the negative side. Just need to jack that up a bit. Come back to fix it. And then you're gonna put the blue on the blue side. So now, if this was all done correctly, I'm gonna grab my multimeter. If I just wired this up correctly, what you just saw me do step for step, these should read a final impedance. And make sure that when you do this, of course, your subwoofers, they should be flat. So if I don't read a final impedance of 1, I need to actually rotate my subwoofers and put them to where the magnet's flat. Because I've wired them up before to where they don't read. Because any little movement will actually make those read some type of resistance. So that's that, and that's that. And you see there, that's an impedance of 1.2, which I was wanting to wire these up to 1. So that is, I mean, if you see, if I'm looking at this box, see it goes from 1 to 1 to 1.4 to 1.1 to 1.2. Same thing with this one. Go 0.9, 0.1. So as you can see, these subwoofers are wired up correctly. Like I said, that's how you wire 2 dual 4s to a final impedance of 1 ohm. My next step is to actually put them in the American Sound Connection box that I had purchased. I was going to touch on a little review of that box. Some things with that box. I mean, I've heard good things. I've heard bad things about that box. Sorry, it's just super hot out here. I've heard good things about that box, bad things about that box, and unfortunately, I was the one to actually get it and kind of notice some of the bad things of it. But ultimately, I mean, that box is temporarily for me. It's just something to hold me until I get my custom box built. So as long as it performs well, that's all I care about. I can really care less about if the carpet's a little jacked up in a spot, because it was, and you know, certain spots it needed to be re-glued, which, you know, we're gonna go back up and touch that up before I actually install and put everything in there. So those are just certain things that I noticed with the box that people were saying, and come to find out that it actually is true. So it's not really a big deal to me like it is for some of them. That is their actually primary box, and I can see where they can get upset with that. But for me, it's not my primary box, so it's something that's just going to hold me over until my primary box is built. So I'm going to go ahead and install these EVL12s in this box. First, I got to drill a couple holes. I'm not going to use the terminal cups because I hear a lot of bad stuff about them, and since I've already got this box and some bad stuff I've already noticed about it, I'm not even going to risk putting these 2 heavy subs in there. Those things breaking, I got to take it off, and I just don't got time for that. So I'm just going to drill holes and run the wire straight from the subs right to the amplifier, which I feel like is the best bet for me. So go ahead and get a little starty McRarty. Ferrari. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole so my speaker wire can actually come out, and I can run it more aft and across. So I'm gonna drill it start from the inside. Okay, got that one drilled. Also, you know, I know people are going, well, why are you drilling a hole in this freaking box you just bought? You know, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like I said before, this box is my temporary box. This box is just something to kind of hold me over. Now, when doing this, you do need to drill these holes a lot smaller and then seal them afterwards. It's just gonna save you a little heartache when actually, you know, you want to smack your subs and you're like, man, the freaking hole I drilled leaking air. So that's what I recommend. People might say, why are you doing from the outside? You also want to make sure you get all that stuff that's in your box out. As you come back in, do same shot I hit it with. So there I got my holes drilled for my wires. I need to actually get a bigger bit. Drilling my center hole now. So this wire I'm feeding through right here is a wire that is going to pretty much bridge these two, connect the 2 subs together, so I can get it to the final impedance of 1 ohm. If you come back on this side, you'll see the hole I drilled is just about perfect. So when I pull this wire, it has a bit of resistance to it. It's not just coming easy. I gotta really pull it to get it, and that's what you want. You don't want to drill an oversized hole, because you drill that oversized hole, then it's just going to cause you more headache whenever you go to actually hook this up. So, you know, don't drill any oversized holes, because it's going to cause that wire to kind of flap around the box, and that's something that you do not want. You don't want that wire to be fucking flappity wrapping in the box. You want it to be secure, and this right here that'll keep that wire from flapping and doing all that craziness, so it will be secure. Next, what you want to do, you want to go back to like what you hooked up before. And I say, I might actually need here. You want to go back to the wiring stuff that you were doing before. Like I said, you want to connect that The blue with the blue. Sucking my sub falls off. I'll probably cry.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. That's the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching.
Camera guy, you supposed to fucking hold. I told you to fucking film it, and I told you to fucking hold on to it at the same time. Oh. Like, bro, calm down, dude. That's a fucking Scar EVL12s. What the fuck you mean? It's just a sub. Damn, bro. Shit, I'll buy you another one, blood. Are you stupid? Alright, guys. So after you put your sub in your box, what you want to do is you actually want to go back and verify that impedance is still the same. So what you want to do is you want to get those wires, and like I showed you previously, you want to, you know, touch the leads to it, and you should get close to whatever you were wiring supposed to be wiring it up to. In my case, I was wiring it to a 1 ohm load, and I got 1.2, you know, so which is good. Now if I push this up, you're gonna get crazy numbers. You know, you're gonna get all this craziness. So this shows that it is wired correctly. Everything's still hooked up intact, perfectly fine. Excuse me. And so now I'm ready to actually do my wire management stuff, run my cables, put my amp on the back, and screw my subs in, and the final product will be coming soon. So stay tuned to my sweaty, drippy forehead.
This recording? Oh my goodness.
Alright, so as you saw, like when I left off, I was actually managing all the wires on the box, making sure that all the wires were ran in a neat and orderly way prior to actually putting the box inside, because it'll make it a little bit more easier if you went ahead and do your wire management while the box is outside. And of course I couldn't do the rest of the wire management for the power and the ground. The power and the ground wire were hooked up to the amplifier prior to me and putting the box inside the car. What I did was, since the wires aren't too long and my battery is actually in the rear of the vehicle, I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie that stuff up, tuck it underneath the fabric, make sure it's not chafing or anything. If I need to actually put some chafe wrap on it, I will, just, you know, for the vibrations and everything, just in case if that wire is accidentally short, I'm not blowing any fuses. So that's a good idea if you are running the wire, you know, across any bare metal or anything where any screws are protruding or anything kind of rough edges. It's always better to be safe than sorry. I know that the insulation on our wire is really thick, but you never know. I mean, anything can happen. So you can wrap it with chafe wrap. In my case, I am, and also the wires that I tapped into. Also on the, and I want to kind of put this out here, on the freaking 6th gen Camaro. I don't even know I said it on the freaking, but on the 6th gen Camaro, I think I said freaking because it kind of aggravated me. But I realized, and I read this on the forums, I saw it on the forums, the left rear speaker does not give you full power, you know. So it's kind of odd. You can either tap into your and because you know the Bose amplifiers in the trunk, you can either tap into the it's weird, but the left and right front speakers, or like I said, you can tap into the left rear subwoofer and the right rear subwoofer, which are the very far speakers aft, in the very aft of the vehicle, very back of the vehicle. So a lot of people, as you know, it's on, I believe the X1 and the X2 connector, the left and the right speaker on two different connectors. It's kind of weird how GM did that, but just note that if you're going to hook up an amplifier or hook up any type of subwoofer, any type of stuff on this car, the left speaker will not give you its full potential. So when you hook it up and you go to pre-tune it like I did, I pre-tuned it, and for some reason I hooked everything up and it wasn't giving me like anything. It was just kind of like weak, and I was like, man, something's up. So actually I went, and it's kind of weird that's the way it's wired up, but it's going to work for me. I'm never going to actually cross, you know what I mean, try to put more bass on the left side than the right side. So actually what I did personally, and you guys, you can do it either way. You can hook it up to the left speakers, or the front speakers, the left and right front speakers, or you can use the subwoofer speakers like I did. I just hooked the left and right to the right. So for better sake, as you've seen in the video, I use the LC2i, and LC2i, you have the left speaker input and the right speaker input. So what I did was I ran the left and right speaker, so I ran both positive and negative from the right speaker, the right subwoofer of the Camaro, and I ran those wires to the LC2i. So again, like I'll say one more time, I ran the two positives and the two negatives to the right speaker in the trunk, the right subwoofer, and I ran that to the left and right input of the LC2i. Now that will not affect anything. That will not, I know people are gonna say, well, you are stupid. That will not affect anything. I mean, if you're gonna be turning, if you want to try to make your music go from the left to the right of your vehicle, that's the only way that would affect anything. Other than that, you're still getting that input. That's really the only thing you want, is that signal input. That signal input to the LC2i, so it can tell your subs, your amplifier and everything to turn on when the vehicle is actually turned on. Like I said, that is a very neat thing for anybody actually out there looking for a good line output converter. A LC2i is, I think, one of the best ones out there. I mean, especially, I mean, it's a bit, you pay money for it, but it's a very neat design, and if you do it all right, you can have some awesome wire management like I do. So I mean, for the most part, like I said, to note for this install video for the 2018 Camaro or any 6th-gen Camaro, note that if you're going to tap into the rear subwoofer speakers, use the right. Do not use the left. The left will not give you the full effect. It will be weak. You will almost essentially crank your amp to crazy numbers. When you set the gain, you know, your amp will almost be freaking pegged out on every freaking one, and you know that that's not right. So, you know, along with using the perks of using the LC2i and having it hooked up to specifically just the right side subwoofer, you can, you know, get a little bit more with using the LC2i, so you're not having to turn your amp up too much on, you know, across the board. We all know that tuning the amplifier, you know, you need to do it kind of step by step to get everything to sound exactly how you want it, have the basses that come through, the basses that you want to come through, but also not those super low basses where you can freaking ruin your system by trying to hit 20 hertz. You know, like those subs are not made for 20 hertz. I believe these subs are rated for 40 to 400 hertz. So like I said before, make sure, and I cannot stress this enough, because I don't want you guys to come across this, and I want to be the one that actually told you this multiple times in the video, to do not use the left rear subwoofer. Use the right rear subwoofer for your left and right inputs. It's not going to affect anything if you run two positives and two negatives on that right rear subwoofer. It'll save you the heartache when you go to install it. And if you want to be that guy that says, I'm not going to do what you say, I'm going to use the left and the right speaker, you're going to find out that you're not going to get the punch you want. And if you do hook it up that way, make sure that to kind of prove my theory, pull the left RCA out and watch your system hit harder than it ever did. You'll be like, wow, he was right. So like I said, make sure that you actually wire it up that way, and whenever you actually go tune your amp, make sure, or set your gain, if you do it like I did, make sure your box is outside your trunk, hooked up to the right subwoofer, the right input from either the amp or the speaker. Make sure it's hooked up to the right subwoofer to set your gain. Make sure your amp is set up right, because if you go to that left one, like I said, you're going to set your amp to crazy numbers, and then you're going to go put your subs and everything in and go crank music and play music, and it's going to be way too freaking over-tuned. It's gonna be tuned to freaking crazy numbers, and you're gonna be like, oh man, like my system is freaking smacking and it's doing this crazy stuff, and like it sounds like it's really like, it sounds like it's hitting hard, but it sounds ugly, and that's why. So like I said, make sure you use the right subwoofer. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more of the Camaro content. Also, you guys need to like, comment, subscribe if you like everything that's going on. I'm probably talking a little fast. Fuck, the mosquitoes coming out, you know, kind of getting your boy a little bit. Like I said, if you got any questions, you know, just comment below, let us know. Like I said, I will get better with getting back with you guys on the videos we do, everything we do. Thank you guys for watching the